I'm Isabelle Gonthier, Chief Assessment Officer at PSI Services, and I invite you to delve deep into the world of testing with me. Every episode, I'll be on the virtual couch with experts from the testing industry, engaging in conversations about the latest developments in our field. Your quest for testing knowledge starts here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tried and Tested podcast. We are connecting today directly from the ATP conference in sunny Anaheim. And it's an interesting timing because our program today is about program transformation and evolution. And what a better place than the Innovation and Testing Conference to have this conversation. So today I have the pleasure of hosting Sean Gasperson, our Director of Psychometric Services at PSI, and Ryan Smith, Program Manager for the Airman Certificate Testing Service at the Federal Aviation Administration. So thank you for joining me. This is extremely exciting to be here at ATP, as I've mentioned, to be able to have that conversation. Yeah. And we're here in the same room, I think, in case you haven't noticed. So, leveraging that, and obviously, if you've been a listener of this podcast, you know what the first question is. Always interested in hearing a little bit more about the backgrounds of how you got into the testing world. So, Ryan, maybe let's start with you. Like, what's your story?
Absolutely. Thanks, Isabel. And one, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to sit here and talk about testing, talk about the FAA with you and Sean. Thank you for having me. So,
Yeah, my pleasure.
yeah. So my job in the FAA didn't really start out as testing. It's kind of evolved into the testing world. I first started as a business consultant right out of grad school, where my contract or my firm that I was working with as a consultant was contracted with the FAA to do business cases, cost benefit analysis, things like that. And I worked with the FAA for about 2 years or so, and then our contract was laid off, so I got laid off, and so the FAA came knocking and said, "Hey, come work for us." I said, "Great, let's do it." So they put me into the testing standards branch, and I've been there for 16 and a half years. And it was shortly after I got to the FAA, they handed me the keys to this test delivery program, not knowing anything about the test delivery world at all or knowledge testing, high stakes testing. Just took the bull by the horns and really worked with our testing vendors, which was PSI, and have really made some great strides in the 16 years I've been there. And so we got a lot more work to do, but it definitely wasn't intentional of going into the assessment world. It just kind of happened that way, and it's been thrilling, exciting ever since.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's what I find fascinating because a lot of people like fell into the profession in a way, and then that's
Yeah.
that's a great example of that. But I always like to see like how people embrace it, and then it becomes their true passion, and they
Mhm.
connect all the dots there from there. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's great. What about you, Sean? Do you have a more traditional pathway, or still kind of I'm sure it's very unique, but talk to us about it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Isabel. Pleasure to be with you as well here in Anaheim. Mine is probably similar to a lot of other psychometricians. I'm from an industrial organizational psychology background, and exploring what areas within IO psychology were interesting to me. I fell into psychometrics and testing and how we learn about people and how we can evaluate people and change people's lives and use that to develop them and really create high quality tests to accomplish the mission of whatever you're trying to do. And it's really interesting. And I came into certification and licensure shortly after, and it's been a joy to be in the industry since then.
So yeah, as we can see, the stories are always very interesting and to some extent unique. There's some similarities in background for the guests that we've had, but also very different kind of stories and how people sort of fell into the profession or by design kind of like created the opportunity to say, this is what I want to do. Like you, Sean, like being in IO psychology, there was like that already that evaluation connection. So I think it's great. It's definitely great to hear more about that. Um, being at ATP this week, I think is super interesting because there's lots going on, lots of great conversations, lots of great sessions, and I know Ryan, it's your first time at the ATP conference, and even if you've been kind of doing testing for quite a while, first time here. So, can you share some of your observations about being here this week?
Thanks, Isabel. I love to. It's been thrilling, and that's just the way to describe it. We've come to this conference for the first time at the FAA to really learn, engage, and take with us a mindset of advancing with the aviation program at the FAA, because really we're about safety, and that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that every airman who takes a knowledge test operates safely in the national airspace system, and that's important. That's a very important mission for us at the FAA and for PSI as our testing vendor. So when we come to these conferences, it's really just to set aside what we've always known and engage and learn about what's going on, what we can do better, what are we doing great. And we've had that opportunity by sharing and listening and really just taking in everything that ATP has to offer.
Yeah, no, and I love it because again, it creates the opportunity to make connections, to learn, to exchange in meaningful conversations. So, well, that's great. And then, yeah, and then Sean, thinking about that whole theme of transformation, evolution in this, fast-paced environment these days. There's a lot happening, lots going on. What are some of the key learnings or takeaways from you of the conference?
I think it's an exciting time in the assessment industry. Obviously, the the introduction and evaluation of AI and how that can be incorporated into various processes and test development programs, whether to include it, how to responsibly include it. That's been a big topic of discussion this week, and it's been interesting to hear various perspectives on that. And then another big theme has been DEI, of course, and how I think there's a lot of good conversations about challenging the way that we've typically thought about SME recruitment or item writing or evaluating the differences in response characteristics and test questions and examinations. So I think challenging some of the assumptions that we've had for a number of years as an industry. But that's a good thing. It's all about change. It's all about modernization, which Ryan and I had the opportunity to present about specific to the FAA. But I think that as far as an industry, some change is inevitable, and it's how we adapt and grow to that change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's where having those conversations and highlighting the opportunities that it presents really, really critical. And then, when building on this, when we think about sort of the evolution, that concept of evolution and transformation, there's been lots going on with you and your program, Ryan, and you've gone through a number of changes. What would be some of the significant milestones or elements that helped shape your program over the years?
Great question, Isabel. I think, it really started for us back in, 2010 to 2013 when we really took a formalized approach to partnering with the aviation industry to form a collective airman certification standard, a standard for one airman to get their entire certificate on for the knowledge test, which is our piece of the world, but also the practical test, which is very important as well. So we had to reform our standard, because we really didn't have great standards that our knowledge test could be built upon. And it wasn't until then that we really started taking a look and saying, okay, well, the standard is one piece of this. How can we do things better with the test? We've always done things the same way for decades, and it was okay. But okay just isn't good enough for the flying public. We have to be better. We have to do things differently and think differently. And so that's where we really engage the psychometric expertise at PSI to help us enhance our knowledge tests through training, technology, and just through better process and things that we had never looked at from a perspective before because we just didn't know. And so it really wasn't until we decided that, the FAA is great at aviation. We're great at it, but maybe we're not the best at testing. And so we really have to take a fresh approach to what this looks like and let go of some of the things that we've accustomed to do for years. So those important milestones come with the standards and then letting go of things to partner with companies like PSI to make things a lot better and enhance our current program.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's important because I always say that when we have conversations with different people from the industry is that looking at ways, getting the help you need because you want to leverage your own expertise and build from it. But it's okay not to know, to be an expert at everything. Nobody should be an expert, because if you're an expert at everything, you're an expert in nothing. So, it's looking at this
Right.
and say, let's leverage the expertise, find the people. We've been having conversation even here at the conference around that, specific to, for instance, AI. We always talk about AI, but the whole thing around, nobody has all the answers. So how do we kind of like collectively get together, understand it better, elevate it, create the solution? So I think what you're kind of talking about here is really important, because you can surround yourself with the right people, the expertise, with whether it's the subject matter expertise that you have internally within your organization and through your community, and the expertise, the testing expertise, and then combined together, it just kind of elevates it to the next level. Because it's not because things are not good from the past. I always like to position it again from a concept of evolution. We need to continue to evolve and make it better, enhance. Uh, that doesn't mean that it wasn't okay before. So that's
Right.
the nuancing that I think is important. So, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then continuing to build on that. So as you continue to evolve, transform, and looking at now, so what are some of the challenges that you're seeing, you're facing, and how are you looking at addressing those?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely challenges, and that's one thing about coming to the ATP conference is, we're not on an island where we're the only ones that have challenges. Every program has challenges, and we also have successes. And be able to share those challenges and successes with some of these other programs is really gratifying, in a way that we can collectively fight these things together. And I can learn a lot from their successes as well as our failures as the FAA. So, corporately, we've got a lot of rulemaking initiatives that really tie up our resources, that don't give us the flexibility to go in and write test questions like we would like to, or spend the time revising them or paying attention to them like we should. So, not only that, but we have so many other priorities as an agency that are safety related, that are important as well. So really, we're grappling with a lot of different things. We're stretched really thin resource wise, and so we have to think differently about how we make our approaches to, if we really want to make the necessary changes that we really envision to make in the future. So, not only that, but I think letting go of change, embracing the changes that we want to see, and not being afraid to move forward. And that's been one of those changes for a while that we've looked at, as far as moving to things like Loft, or automatic item generation. Things were just a dream in the past, but now we're really finally there, and it's extremely exciting about it. So.
Yeah, well, no, I can relate to that. Definitely exciting. So yeah, and I guess Sean, you've been part of that journey with FAA, sort of like advising, being there, being a present, an expert. Um, so building on some of the challenges and opportunities that it creates, and from your broader industry experience, what are the things that you feel like how you're supporting Ryan and his program and other programs? Interested in hearing your perspective there.
I think it comes down to being a good partner and understanding that um, we all bring different expertise to the table, like you mentioned before, and how can our partnership with the FAA or with different organizations throughout the testing industry, what does that partnership look like, and what's the right size for that, and what's the right path forward? It's not the same for everybody, and I think that our unique experience is that we work with lots of different organizations, and we've been through different things, we have different experiences, and we know in some cases what works and what doesn't for a particular situation. And so I think it's comes down to being a good partner, understanding that change is difficult sometimes, and it challenges the way that things have traditionally been done. But that's not always a bad thing. And how can we learn from that change as we implement it and as we go to achieve the outcome that we want?
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no real cookie cutter. Like there's no, obviously we have standards, we have approaches that, are best practice, but there's opportunities to adapt, evolve, and address and go through, like respecting the pace, because not everybody necessarily can move at the same pace. Not every organization, you've mentioned like you're working with a set of resources, and you want to, even if you want want to push things and go faster. Sometimes it's not possible. So it's adapting to that, picking priorities, identifying what's going to be the biggest bang for your buck in a way, and then just kind of building from it. So I think that that's an important element as well. So that's good. Looking ahead, what's the vision for you from your perspective, Ryan, when you think of your program, when you think it's going where it's going, when you think about some of the learnings again from this week? So where's the future?
Well, that's a great question, Isabel. And certainly, as no one really knows the future, I think we're understanding that if we don't move forward, then we're moving backwards. And so how do we get there? Well, we're going to get there one step at a time, one small step at a time, one test at a time, to really enhance all of the FAA's knowledge tests and every certification that we have. We owe it to the public to continuously to evolve. To give the public confidence that when they take a knowledge test or when their pilot takes a knowledge test, they're ready to go, so they can get on that airplane and fly and know they're going to be there safely. So that's our goal, and we want to make sure that we take all the meaningful steps to get there, even if they're small steps, and if one small win at a time is okay with us. But we really want to make sure we have a scientifically based test that's legally defensible, that really understands what that airman has, that set of knowledge skills ready to go on to the next part of their certification process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that it's great because you said it a few times through our conversation. It's thinking about the stakes of what you're doing. Like in the end, not everybody, I would say almost everybody would have had an experience like being on the plane and thinking about the importance of having, ensuring that the people have the skills, knowledge, and abilities to do that, and they've been tested. So the stakes are pretty high. So it's important to keep that in mind along the way. It's about safety, and all of those considerations. And I think that this is something that obviously is critical from all angles. It's when you think about the purpose of the test and the purpose of how we are working in this industry, to keep things stable, evolve and change, but at the same time, always keeping in mind that we want to move fast, but sometimes we probably need to kind of pause a little bit and be like, oh, is this going to be beneficial? Is it still going to meet the ultimate outcome of safety of the public?
Yeah, and to add to that, Isabel, it's refreshing to know that the FAA has an exceptional leadership team in place to help us get there. They set the strategic tone of where the FAA is going to go, and without them creating that space and that strategic tone and mission, we wouldn't get there. And so the fact that we have that is taking us miles. So I mean, we have great leadership all the way from my direct bosses all the way up to the administrator of the FAA, who's really said, hey guys, we're going to make this happen and we're going to do it. You're going to have the resources. We're going to find a way to make it happen. And so it's been really nice to have that support and backing as we go forward with
Oh
this.
yeah, and having the being empowered to be able to affect change, move things forward, and again, it's beneficial. It's a win-win-win. I would kind of look
Yeah.
at it from all the angles. Win-win-win.
Isabel, I also want to add to what Ryan said that I was reminded of something that Janet Garcia said this week in one of her sessions, talking about what is high stakes. It's pretty easy to see from an aviation standpoint that those are very high stakes. But when we think about the test taker, the person who's pursuing that certification, that license, that's very important to them. As we say here, dreams deserve PSI, but really every test taker has a dream, and it's high stakes to them. It could change their life. So I think that when we think about how do we define high stakes, it's very important for everybody, and that deserves a certain level of rigor that we seek to provide the FAA, but I think that we provide to lots of organizations as well because that is meaningful to the test taker.
Yeah, no, that's a critical element because that link back to the test taker and the importance it has on them, each and every one of them is really, really critical. So we've talked a bit about earlier, like the trends and I don't necessarily want to I don't want to be repetitive in any way, shape, or form, but and I'll ask, um, s- um, from your perspective, Sean. So again, in the considering the support, how, your role in supporting programs and working with Ryan and his program, how are you leveraging sort of like the learnings and the industry trends to continue to elevate you as a professional and you as a professional to help better support? the credentialing programs that we work with.
Yeah, I think it's learning from other industry experts, and the good thing about a conference like this is everyone is kind of putting themselves out there a little bit for the better of the industry, and everyone who attends sessions, who has discussions, conversations, can understand what's been working for my organization, what are some lessons learned, what are some challenges that we went through, and how can how can we elevate the testing industry to learn from that particular case. But some of us have different challenges, some of us have very similar challenges. And I think it's what I've appreciated about this industry is the willingness of people to come together and share your experiences. It's not always pretty, but hey, there's value in kind of revealing a little bit about yourself and your program, uh, because most of the time other organizations have been through something like that as well. And it's very important to share and learn from each other and have a gained shared experience.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's what something that we do extremely well in the assessment industry is to share, build from those learnings. Looking at some of the case scenarios, case studies, because yes, we learn from each other, and then and in the end, we all get better from it. So yeah. Um, okay, stepping back a little bit, thinking about some of the changes, evolution that you've went through, Ryan. If you were to talk to someone that is contemplating some of those transformation with their program, what would be sort of your key recommendation, or even like lessons learned that you would want to share with them to say, these are the things you need to think about if you are contemplating like that level of transformation.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great question because I know there's a lot of organizations who would love to make changes, but maybe they feel a little frustrated. But I think one, they need to have some executive sponsorship within their organization that sets the tone for where they want to go. Set a mission, a vision, objectives. Those things are so important. When you think about an organization's mission statement, those are not just words on a screen or a piece of paper. That means something. There's a lot of power in that. And so they need to set their vision and mission and get some key objectives of how they intend to get there. Now, after that, they need to form a team and they need to have the good team. And if they don't have the right resources internally, go get them. Find the right people for your team to make you successful. They can do that through hiring, they can do that through procurement, through partnerships, strategic alliances, a number of different things. But get a team, execute that team, and then whenever you execute those changes, celebrate it. Now, I don't skip on this. If you're a decision maker listening to this, this is a key step. Celebrate these things. Set the tone with your organization that, we're going to accomplish something great and we're going to have fun doing it. And I'm not talking about some lame potluck dinner in the employee break room where everybody brings their casserole. Have fun, pop the champagne, do some karaoke. Doesn't have to be a black tie gala, but have fun with it.
I love it. And then you know what? That's important, celebrating the successes, because sometimes we go fast. There's lots going on. There's lot that needs to happen, and we don't take the time necessary to take a breath. And so I love it. I love the spirit of it because that's how you kind of keep the momentum. You keep the engagement. I think that's an important element. You need to keep the people engaged because it could be cumbersome at times. It's a lot, and if you need to operate a program and on top of it you're overlaying some transformational elements to it, whoa, that could at times be heavy. So yeah, I love the spirit of that, and I'm sure Sean, like from your background and all of that, I'm sure you could relate to that. Anything else you wanted to add on that front?
Yeah, no, I think Ryan said it very well. And, I think that implementing change occurs at a different pace for different organizations. And the reason for that might be outside of your control, and that's okay. I think identifying how do we prioritize what areas we need and want to change, learn from our implementations, and move forward. And what's the right path and multi-year vision for ultimately getting to the place that we want to go.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is great. I think it's been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate the time you took to, Ryan, to share your experience, your vision, your perspective. It's very inspiring. Sean, the work you're doing, how you're supporting the programs and leveraging your expertise. I think that in the end, connecting all of those dots together, sharing the experiences, celebrating the successes, getting things moving. being able to be part of a community where you can share and exchange and learn from each other to continue evolve is really important. So thank you. Thank you so much for being such great guests, and I appreciate the conversation. So
Oh, it's our pleasure. We're happy to be here, and we're just getting started. So
perfect. Let's bring it on.
that's right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Isabel.
Thank you.